Blue light flashing down the railroad track, blue smoke rolling from the old smokestack. Oh, blue train, don't leave me behind.
Hello folks, welcome to Outdoors with Bud. I'm your host, Bud Fields. You know, the weather's finally cooperating with us, and like everybody else, I've got cabin fever. I'm ready to get the boat out and get on the water. I just brought my boat home from winter storage, and there's some things I would like to share with you that I do checking on my boat and trailer before I leave my driveway, that I think if you have a comprehensive check routine such as what I'm going to give you today, it's going to help eliminate a lot of the problems that you may encounter as you're going from your driveway to the lake and coming back. Okay, I like to start out working with my tires right here. And one of the handiest things to have, you need to get you a dependable tire gauge. Now these are very inexpensive. I normally carry a couple of them in my toolbox in my boat, and I have a couple in my truck. But you need to have the tire gauge with you to help you monitor your tire pressure, which is very, very important. Then I'll reach down here to my valve stem. I'll take the valve cap off of it. I'll put that tire gauge on there, then I'll check it to see, make sure it's at a proper standing with it. Then I like to replace that cap and make sure you get it on there tight. I also take my finger and I'll move that valve stem around a little bit, because these rubber stems will have a tendency from being in and out of the water so many times and going from hot to cold weather and cold to hot weather, they will dry rot and you can have a leak there on air. Then I always carry a 4-way lug wrench with me. That way I know no matter what vehicle I want to use this on, I've got the proper size socket for it. I would check these lug bolts to make sure that they're snug. You don't want to go down the road and lose them. Then I also, inside of this hub, there's some wheel bearings. There's also 2 races. There's an inner and outer race, and there's an inner and outer wheel bearing. It does not hurt to take that apart and completely disassemble that and look at those wheel bearings to see if there's any rust, any pit marks in it. If you notice anything like that, replace it immediately. And I always carry an extra set of wheel bearings with me in my toolbox in case I am on the road. And should I burn a wheel bearing, which can be very treacherous, I can replace it right then and there. Then all you got to do is there's a grease zerk inside of this little wheel bearing buddy right here that you just put your grease gun on that and you lubricate it to make sure it's got enough grease on there, because it will develop a lot of heat. And then I also check the sidewall on the side of the tire right there, make sure there's no cracks, make sure there's no bulges where it's been hit or you got a busted belt there or anything, or any severe cracks. Then you can also check your tire tread. That's very important. It's just like on your car. You want to have good tires on your car, you need good tires and wheels on your boat. Another very important thing on most of the boat trailers anymore, they've got what they call the boat buckles back on the back. This is a strap that actually helps hold the back of the boat to the back of the trailer. And these are really nice to have. They're spring loaded. You can pull it out, you just put that hook up around the clamp, then you just give it a couple cranks right here and that'll tighten it down. Now, what you do need to lubricate that boat buckle. And what I use is this Ultra Lube. It's made by Plus Edelman Lubrimatic. This is called Ultra Lube. It's 4 times more lubricant than anything. It's multi-purpose lubricant and penetration. It's eco-safe, it's non-toxic, and it's odor-free. Now, any moving parts on this buckle attachment, you need to spray down inside of there to make sure that it's not locked up. Okay, I've got the side rollers here that guides the boat on and off of the trailer. I actually line the front of the boat up between those rollers, then I accelerate, and the motor will put the boat up there. These rollers have to be able to rotate. If they lock up on you, it's going to make it a lot more difficult. Now, there's 4 of them. You got 2 on each side on my boat. Now, there's an axle that runs right up through the middle of this. That has to be lubricated. Once again, I use that same Ultra Lube, and I'll spray it right on the inside of there to make sure that it's well lubricated. You want that roller to be able to rotate freely, because if it's not going to help you put it on and off of there. Just do that maybe 2 or 3 times a year and you're good to go. Another thing that's very often overlooked on your trailer is your spare tire. If you get out and have a flat tire, you got to have a spare. So you want to make sure that that spare is aired up and it's not flat. 2 flat tires isn't going to do you any good when you're on the road. So you want to take that tire gauge that I was talking about earlier, check your spare, make sure it's inflated properly. Once again, check the valve stem on that, because that spare If it's flat, it's not going to do you any good. Another item, and this has happened to me so many times. Now my spare tire is mounted down here right on the tongue of the trailer basically. Some of them will be mounted on the outer frame. There's a mounting attachment nut and bolt. A lot of times that is exposed to all kind of weather, all kind of conditions. Make sure that that nut is free to turn. Take some of that ultra lube that I was referring to, spray down inside of there. Make sure that is well lubricated. Get you, I think that's about a 3/4 inch socket, and loosen that up because it's so hard to get a lock nut on there that's rusted and almost welded on there. And if you need that spare tire out of there and you can't get it out of there, you're going to have to sit there till somebody comes out and tows you in. Okay, I'm up towards the front of the trailer now. I'm going to show you a few more items here that needs to be taken care of. Where your boat comes onto the trailer, you've got a roller up here. What I do, I take some of that ultra lube and I'll spray down inside of there to make sure that roller can turn all right. There's an axle shaft that goes here, comes all the way through. Make sure you lubricate that all the way inside of through there. Even this little hinge right here on this hook, you want to make sure that this is working properly. What this is doing, this is going to hold the boat to the front of the trailer and hold the front of it down. On this winch strap, it's just like the tie downs on the back of the boat that I showed you. Inspect that and make sure that that's in good condition. Over the period of times, deterioration will hit it, it'll start rotting out. If you see any cuts from where you rolled up on the wheel, any cuts on there, you need to make sure that you replace that right away. Some people will use a hold down chain up here like a safety chain. Make sure that chain is a strap attached to it any place. The spring up here, this retainer spring, over a period of years will lose some of its strength. You need to replace that to make sure it's working all right. But any moving part on anywhere on the trailer, make sure that it's lubricated. You don't want it to lock up. Okay folks, another item that is probably one of the biggest maladies on a boat trailer is the wiring. When you get it out, you plug it in, always there's something that's not going to work. Well, I'm going to give you some pointers here that can help eliminate a lot of that. On mine, when I unplug it, I look at the receptacle here. I check it to make sure there's no rust. If it's exposed to any kind of dampness or anything, it can rust. Well, I might take a little small flat file and I'll file all those points off of there. And then I'll get a little bit of this Lubrimatic electrical contact grease and I'll just put a little bit of it down on the inside and rub it. Then when I reconnect it, I'll move that connector back and forth. A lot of times that will help clean that off. If you still have a problem with that, you may have to replace this connector, but they're not all that expensive. There's also a pigtail adapter that goes to the trailer. You do the same thing. Now I've had these off already and I've cleaned them up pretty good, but it doesn't hurt to give them a little shot of grease on there. And once again, I mean, if you do get too much on there, to me, I don't think there's such a thing as too much. But a lot of times when you check your wiring or your truck, you put that in there, wiggle it back and forth to make a good connection. Now, if you still have a problem, one thing is very common, and a lot of guys won't do it. Sometimes you'll get rust on that ball. The best thing to do on that is to get you a ball cover, some kind of a rubber or plastic ball cover. I've seen some guys even use a tennis ball that they'll cut to fit over that to protect that. You can also put a lot of grease on that and rub it down with a rag. Because when I first put mine in, all my lights will work, but sometimes they're not real bright. That indicates to me that it's a ground problem. A lot of times I'll just move this trailer back and forth to where that's grounding out a lot better on the ball. But you need to check your tail lights, your turn signals, and your stop lights on your trailer. You do that, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised how long you're going to go by just adding a little bit of lubricant to that and keeping your connectors clean. Okay, one of the last things I'm going to discuss with you today, folks, is like your trailer tongue jack. A lot of people will neglect this and they pay big consequences by doing it. But once again, anything on this thing that moves, you need to lubricate it. For example, this crank right here, when you turn this handle, this should raise and lower this wheel. So I use that Ultra 4, I'll spray that on there. And even around this handle, it's a little better on your hands if this does turn. So I'll put some spray in there to make sure this will rotate. Okay, and a couple of other places right here on the side, for instance. If you want to swing this up, you got to pull this out and swing it, then it will lock. You've got a moving plate right here, so what I do, I put plenty of that lubricant in behind that plate, then there's a retainer ring right here that I spray down. Now you can see the importance of that having to be free to rotate. Also, right here on this, it's like a big U-clamp. I lubricate that down quite a bit because this has to have the freedom to spring in and out. If it doesn't, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Even down here on this wheel. So you can see how that wheel will rotate. There's a little axle pin down there. I shoot that with lubricant. I want to make sure that that wheel don't roll, because we have been places in a parking lot where you have to unhook your boat and move the trailer. And the only way you can do that is that wheel rotates. But if it locks up, you're going to be hurt. Now once again, that's an item that's commonly overlooked. And I recommend no more time than it takes to do that and make sure that it works. And there's also, if you take this cap off, there has to be some grease down through here. You can use any type of a grease for that, any type of a lithium type, like on your car if you want to. Make sure you keep grease inside of that to where this will actually roll up and down without a whole lot of problem. Well folks, I hope that information helped you, because what I've eliminated right here and check was going to pay dividends on the road. I'm not going to worry near as much about getting out. Now, it will not stop all your issues, but it's going to help a lot of them that normally is more common. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Take a kid fishing, and God bless you.